So the video that I want to make right now is talking about, kind of riffs off from self-care, which we just did a presentation on here for you, Steve Spielberg and our future mystery students. The riff from self-care to protest at first might seem a little disjointed. How does protest relate to self-care? Well, self-care in this way is the juice, let's say here, or the glue, the podge, the attending a thing like Take Back the Night. Take Back the Night marches have been going on since, I think, 1920 or some very long time like that. Take Back the Night marches were originally designed or imagined for women to go out on the streets at night and say, hey, we're entitled to be here. Just because it's after dark and I'm out doesn't mean you get to sexually assault me or besmirch my character. Because many working poor women, many women bringing their kid to the doctor, or a woman who worked as a cleaning lady or a waitress or a server or a bar clerk, we have to be out at night. That doesn't mean that we're sex trade workers. And even if I am a sex trade worker and I'm out at night, my body is my body. So those of you who've been to Take Back the Night marches, and I've been to 20 of them, I think, the chants often are, no means no and yes means yes, however we dress, wherever we go. So how is that a self-care thing? One, it's beautiful to be with 50 or 100 or 1,000 other advocates that women be safe no matter how they dress or where they go. Lovely reality check, lovely networking, lovely support, lovely affirmation. It's a wholesome, good thing to attend to Take Back the Night march. It's physical. You're out in the brisk, fresh air, sharing, loud sounds, and you're actually feeling it in your body. Hey, no means no, and it's wholesome. So if you've been working as a social worker with victims of abuse, and you've been kind of getting this sediment of yuck on you, going out once a year to Take Back the Night march is very robust and healing. It's good. It's a good thing. Do that. There's also Gay Pride. There's International Women's Day. There's December 6th ceremonies. There's anti-poverty protests. There's the Alzheimer's walk, the cancer walk, the kidney walk, where you're raising funds for a cause. All of those kind of networks in your zone. Pick one a month, let's say, and go to one thing in a month. Aboriginal Day, Gay Pride, depending on your schedule and when they're planned and so on. I see it as part of your self-care strategy to attend those things. It reminds you of what the big picture is. It reminds you of all the lies we've heard of. She brought it on herself, she was out at night. She brought it on herself, she was wearing a red dress. It's her own fault, she had a couple of drinks. When you go to these kind of protests, almost always there's speakers on a stage who give you the latest policies, the latest laws, the latest changes, the latest patterns. It helps you, in a peculiar way, be very up and edgy in your issues, whatever your issues are. It's also a good place to network with your peers and colleagues so we can't be divided and conquered by our funders. If there's 5 women's shelters in your community and the other 4 executive directors of the shelters are there marching with you, that sends a message to your funders, it sends a message to the wider community, and it sends a message to the other 4. We're in this together. I'm not interested in having the funding cut for your agency so my agency can get this extra little crumb or tidbit. I want us all to be in this together. Very classic, the funders tries to divide and conquer us, whether that's Indigenous people who are full status, or Indigenous people who are on reserves, or Indigenous people who are off reserves, or Indigenous people who are using or affirming traditional leadership styles or contemporary democracy leadership styles. Don't let the funders divide and conquer you. Use these protests and rallies as a chance to reaffirm your solidarity and bond and trust with each other. another reason. So self-care and networking and solidarity. A third reason is public education. It's a great chance to have your speakers. Black Lives Matter last week on Friday, and last week, today is Monday, so last week, Saturday, 2 days ago, Black Lives Matter, there were 2 large protests in this town. I felt so proud. I felt so hopeful about our community hugely attending these 2 rallies, and I learned from the speakers and I learned from the other people who were there. But I also was so refreshed that this was on the 6 o'clock news, 11 o'clock news, it was in a newspaper, it's out there. Those speakers and the data that they give is like an educational promo thing, not just for us as colleagues and insiders and activists and survivors and citizens in the world and comrades, but Joe and Jane, average person who don't know all these issues. They didn't have the privilege of going to the workshop, the conference, to take the 4-year university degree. They got enlightened when they saw that on the news. When you go right now, every channel, Al Jazeera, CNN, CBC, CBS, all of them right now are showing Black Lives Matter protests and rallies and supports and commentary. I feel that is so powerful as a consciousness raiser for the average citizen at home. And not everybody has the privilege to go and buy a $50 book or knows how to use Google. So as we attend these Take Back the Nights or Black Lives Matter, Gay Pride, or International Women's Day 76 ceremony, we are also participating in a loop of re-educating the community, raising their consciousness. So we self-care, solidarity, resisting divide and conquer, public education. The other thing is, they can be fun. A lot of these things can be fun. You get to see your colleagues, your comrades, you talk about the bizarre expectations of the wider world, because a lot of this stuff is stupid. Racism is stupid. It's completely the stupidest, right?
Yeah, we established that a long time ago,
right,
but clearly not well enough.
Well, yeah, on one level, of course, it's dangerous and it's horrid and it's monstrous and it's all those things, right? Patriarchy, capitalism, classism, all this stuff. But at the same time, sometimes you have fun with your colleagues. It can be the most lovely thing. That you haven't seen each other for a year, you hug, except for C19, that's different right now. But it can be a chance where you see people in your field, in your zone, in your comrade circle. You may only see them twice a year at a protest or a rally. The same if you're working in the field of cancer and or MS rallies, or those other walkathon for Terry Fox walkathon or Aboriginal Days. It's almost like a festival, Aboriginal Days. They will have tables set up with pamphlets and booklets and crafts and food and things that are, Gay Pride obviously is like totally fun. I love Gay Pride. It's all celebration about diverse sensualities and sexualities, and I don't know if I'm like reinscribing some kind of stereotype, but Gay Pride, they always have the cutest dogs and they always dress them up, and I love that, and it's very celebratory. People wear costumes, or
it's very bright
and sparkly and joyous, right? So please, 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 as part of your self-care, part of your networking, part of your public education, part of your own consciousness raising and ongoing professional development, attend all of these things. Anti-poverty protests and rallies. There's an event in this town called the Chili Blanket, and every year they have a big protest and speakers talk about how can you live on minimum wage, how can you afford an $800 one-bedroom apartment, how do you afford to go to school. So it develops solidarities and networking about all the ways you can end up poor. Students are poor, elderly people are poor, people who are sick and need money for medicines and support are poor. It's different ways to end up poor. So anti-poverty protests are a way of coalition building, ongoingly building trust with your colleagues in the other agencies. Further, one of the things they always build into the Chili Blanket is everybody, this is I think usually in December, people show up and they put tarps out, the organizers, and then each of the people who comes, you bring blankets or towels or socks or mittens or scarves or food, and you put it out on the tarps, and anybody who needs it can leave with it. So it's a way of redistributing resources.
Yeah, without profit. Like
Without profit, without stigma. Just you bring stuff and put it out. Other people
are
want
allowed
it.
to take it, and you're not going to judge them for it because you literally brought it for that.
Exactly. So it helps to also bridge divides between, elderly or poor, unemployed, right? It's a way for all of us to see we're in this together.
Mm-hmm.
Black Lives Matter has been magical in that way too, of various kinds of poverties and violence have been connected here. They've been doing a very astute job, in my opinion, in all these protests and all these rallies and all these different ways of showing it isn't just that a cop pushed him, it's that cops also hyper-focus on black men. They also hyper-focus on, let's say, a middle-class white woman is buying opioid pills, right? She's less likely to end up in jail for 10 years than a young black person who's got way less, or maybe with, 10 joints of marijuana, and she's got, let's say, a more substantive, dangerous drug. But because she's middle class and white and can afford a lawyer, or looks a certain way, presents a certain way, is perceived a certain way, she might get less jail time or less likelihood of even going to jail than a young black man with way less drugs, right?
And the same with like indigenous men and how they're likely to get more jail time than white women or.
Right, so all of these things, but Black Lives Matter has been educating and reaffirming what are these big patterns. Us doing social work with victims of abuse, the more you can be part of the organizing team, part of the planning team, and attend the protest and the rally and be part of it, the more you can become a better person, a better practitioner, a better citizen. You also build trust with all those other networks. Really on a practical level, at protests and rallies along the way over the years, so like 30 years, I go to these things, to be able to say, oh, by the way, I'm moving next month. Can I use your truck? Or, oh, by the way, I need to buy a new photocopier, and I know you bought a new photocopier last year. Did it work out well for you? There's so many ways, just really practical things that you can share while you're marching, because sometimes you're marching for 3 hours, or you're at a rally, or a strike. Strikes are so good in that way, because you're going around and around in circles for 6 hours at a strike. In your community, go to the strikes if you can. So that's the solidarity aspect too. So if there's a strike in your community for the miners, or for the resource workers, or a strike for, last year there was a strike here at UMBC for the Tim Hortons staff and the food staff. Go and spend 2 hours walking around with them and show your support, show you care. Because in general, social work with victims of abuse, the more people are racialized, poor, isolated, traumatized, the more they can be abused. These things intersect. We had a whole video here on intersectionality. Perpetrators know to abuse the people who have, perpetrators know they'll get away with, more likely with abusing the people who have no union, who have no job security, who have a dump that they're living in that's small and they can't come up with first and last month's rent to move, and so on. Mm-hmm. So keep your own consciousness raised, keep your own soul brave, keep your networking, your consciousness raised, and it's part of the self-care. And I would wish you also to be involved with the rituals around these things. So let's say December 6th ceremonies for us in Canada. December 6th was Mark Lepine showed up at a university and he was filled with rage because women, in his perception, had taken his opportunity at the university in engineering. If feminists hadn't gotten those positions as students, he would have had his dreams come true. But because of the feminists, his life was ruined. So he showed up at this university and he killed 14 women. He injured dozens of other people. We all were traumatized. Most of us in Canada around my age, we remember exactly where we were standing or sitting and what we were doing and what we were wearing when we first heard about Mark Lapina's killing feminists. And I certainly do. So I always, every year, go to the December 6th to show my compassion and care for other women who've experienced this kind of violence and trauma. And another one here locally is the Highway of Tears, which we're going to spend more time talking about. The Stolen Sisters is we often have an event at the university and an event at the college, and then there will also be a Missing and Murdered Women rally or protest. So there's 3 events that are kind of dovetailed, and they might be on different days, but sometimes these kinds of events might be, let's say one is on Friday afternoon, one is Friday night, one is Saturday afternoon. There's the breakfast, the Legal Education and Action Fund breakfast every year, the Person's Day event. There's literally one event per month, if not 2 or 3 events per month, to get yourself networked into, to let people know, I want to be part of this. Show up, even if you show up for 10 minutes, show up, grab the latest pamphlet or statistics or report, give someone a hug. If you can't show up, donate $10. If you can't donate $10, ask if you could do their photocopying for them for the pamphlet. Every level of social work with victims of abuse intersects, layers, connects, has meaning. You also want to not be labeled as a social worker who only gives a shit when you're being paid $25 an hour. There are social workers in the world who never show up at any of these things, ever.
I feel like that might be a little disheartening for their clients.
It does. If they never see you at a protest or a rally, there's a couple of men in this town who claim themselves to be really compassionate leaders and all this stuff, but we know they never show up at December 6th or International Women's Day or the breakfast. So we know, well, if they're being paid well, they care, but maybe not. They don't care. Same if you're a white woman and you never show up for anything Indigenous. Right? Reflect on that. If you claim to care about mental health issues, but Canadian mental health in your community has events and you never show up, you never donate, right? So accomplish yourself too as a person who cares not just when you're getting paid, but you care because you care, and you're a lifer. I'm a lifer who cares. I do my best. You know, you have years where your partner is sick or your kids are sick or something big is going on in your life, but over the duration of your career, do your best to show up at things or be a part of it in some way. Even, you know, I'll donate 2 pizzas to this youth event. Do it. Be part of it. And that's what I wanted to say about how these things, Take Back the Night, Black Lives Matter, Gay Pride, International Women's Day, December 6th, Anti-Poverty, Walks for Cancer. Have I missed any?
Bell, Let's Talk.
Bell, Let's Talk. That's a mental health one. Exactly, Bell, Let's Talk. There's also usually events in every
Autism Awareness Month.
Autism awareness, refugee and immigrant issues. There's all of that level. Let's say that's the macro level, the protests and the rallies. Give something to that every year. Give something to the meso level of, you know, in your community, the youth are organizing a bowling night for the parents of youth with mental health issues. Say, oh, I'll buy 2 pizza coupons and give it to that. It can feel overwhelming, and it can almost feel like, oh my God, another event, another rally, another ticket. People sell tickets, raffle tickets, and all that. Give $5 just to show you care. Try and do a little bit, just a little bit, and it'll earn you in the long run a lot. And also self-care, so you can say, you know, I do my work, I do my best, I try to not get overwhelmed, but I bought some pizza. I donated some cookies and muffins. It's a little bit, but it shows you as a bigger person, not just there to get your wages. So that's also part of my Steven Spielberg facilitated sequence of videos for social work with victims of abuse. Thank you very much for attending this one. Thank you, Carlene.
Thank you.
We're not allowed to touch, but we can kind of like almost touch, almost touch. Thank you for again bearing witness for this part.
No problem. Thank you for having me.